Hello, and welcome to the Pop Culture News here on The Experience. We've got quite a bit to cover today, so let's just jump right in and start going through these things. All right, so starting with, you guys remember last year's SAG-AFTRA strike? There was a lot of heated comments back and forth, and one of the people that said something heated was Tatiana Maslany from She-Hulk Attorney at Law and Orphan Black and a bunch of other things, but she specifically called out Disney CEO Bob Iger. And at the time, Iger had said that the actor's demands were not realistic. Well, Maslany said that Iger was completely out of touch with the workers who make his shows happen, who make people watch the shows, who bring viewers to him and make him money. It's pretty specific. Well, in a recent interview with The Independent, Maslany is kind of walking back a little bit. Not so much what she said, but how she said it. Saying that in those moments, you're so heated up, it's hard to articulate yourself in a way that you want when you're on the picket line with everybody. Now, she also brought up one of the issues that she was upset about. And this had to be the move from in-person auditions to basically putting yourself on tape and sending it in, and which is the new trend now. Well, she says, you send these tapes into the void. You never get responses. You never get any feedback. And you're working. You're filming yourself and you're editing yourself, which is also the stuff that makes you so self-conscious. Now, Maslany is next going to be in the adaptation of Stephen King's The Monkey, but there's no word yet on whether she'll be back with the MCU. So not sure how Bob Iger took what she said in the first place. All right, moving on. We're going to talk a lot about Deadpool a bit. We got the trailer dropped. But this has to do with a rumor that's been going on for quite some time that Taylor Swift is rumored to be appearing as Dazzler in the upcoming Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, if you're not familiar with Dazzler, the character is really an interesting creation because she was a collaboration between Marvel and Casablanca Records back in the 70s when disco was really getting big. And what they kind of wanted to do was create almost like a Monkees type situation. Monkees, the TV show band thing, where they would have someone be Dazzler and have music come out for Dazzler and comic books and TV shows or movies or whatever. So that was the basic idea, was to create this presence, create, kind of like they do with boy bands. And when they were originally designing the character, they were basing her off of Grace Jones, which is very different than the Dazzler we know nowadays. If I told you there was a character based on Grace Jones and Taylor Swift might play it, you'd be kind of confused, wouldn't you? Well, it turns out that John Derek, the director, showed interest in doing the Dazzler movie, and this was shortly after he was coming off the film 10, when Bo Derek became one of the hottest people in Hollywood. Well, there was some quick changes made, and suddenly Dazzler started looking more like Bo Derek. And, they got the book out, they got things rolling, and then Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan came out, which was a flop. Bo Derek and John Derek left, and we've ended up with Dazzler as a thing, but the movie never happened. Well, speed it up to now, and there's been this rumor floating around that Swift was going to be part of the movie because she's good friends with Ryan Reynolds. She's good friends with Blake Lively, Reynolds' wife. They were seen hanging out together around the time that that Deadpool was shooting. Well, yesterday, or when the album, The Tortured Poets Department, came out, which turned out to be a surprise double album, but of the first album by itself, the last song, Clara Bow, ends with the line, "The future is bright, dazzling," which I know seems kind of like a stretch, but Taylor Swift is known for putting little Easter eggs and little hints and stuff on her albums. things about other people, things about ex-boyfriends or people she's having problems with, or, you know, and it wouldn't surprise a lot of people that she would drop an Easter egg like this. But again, this is far from confirmation, though a lot of people are thinking it is. But we will have to find out in July if this turns out to be true. I think she'd be perfect for the role. I'd love to see it. But yeah, I wouldn't call this confirmed just because she said dazzling. All right, moving on. When word came out that the upcoming Joker Folie à Deux, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that. It looks like Folie à Deux, was going to be a jukebox musical, a lot of fans of the original Todd Phillips film got kind of nervous. Now, the original 2019 Joker was extremely gritty and dark, so the idea that the sequel would suddenly have main characters singing popular songs, doing covers of popular songs, it did kind of not sit well with a few people. But Phillips has come out and is saying, trying to set the record straight, saying, we never really talked about it like that, but it's a movie where music is an essential element, and to me, it doesn't veer too far from the first film. Now, he went on to say that this fits with the character introduced in the first film, saying, yeah, Arthur is weird and aloof, but he has music in him. So this doesn't go against the original report that there was going to be 15 cover songs in it, but it also said that the film would break the more traditional musical mold. So Joaquin Phoenix, of course, played the Joker, and the first movie made over $1 billion. So Warner Brothers, of course, is hoping that the sequel is going to do the same, adding Lady Gaga. So expect a lot of singing, but it's not a musical. I'm not sure how that works. James Gunn posted a simple image to Threads, and a couple multiple articles were written about it. I know this sounds familiar, but what he posted was the original Superman logo, that simple red S on the yellow badge that didn't last long on Superman, but it was Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster's first design for the logo. I mean, they created it in 1936, it appeared in 1938, and would immediately change to being a triangle with a red border instead. Now, the logo changed a lot those first few years. I mean, I think there's like 5 or 6 different versions before we get the one that we're more used to, the more, triangle up into and then flat top. I'm sure JD's going to put a picture up here showing the logo, but that didn't show up until 1944. So in 6 years, they went through probably about 6 or 7 logos. The current one we know for the upcoming movie is going to be the kind of the Kingdom Come one that Alex Ross designed, but instead of the black areas on the S, it is going to be yellow. Now, of course, when he posted the picture with no comment, people started writing articles trying to figure out what it means. Is this a possible Easter egg? Is this going to, are we going to get that logo at some point? Is it going to show up somewhere? What does it mean? And I think some people just have to accept that sometimes what Sigmund Freud said is true, and a cigar is just a cigar. But then again, there's some debate now whether or not Sigmund Freud actually said that. So who knows? All right, we got a really weird announcement the other day. Skybound Entertainment is kind of getting ahead of a potential scandal. The studio created by Robert Kirkman is the home of the Walking Dead and Invincible, put out a statement Sunday morning addressing concerns that they might be working with the North Korean company, which they are specifically saying they're not. What they explain in the post is that there's an unconfirmed report of a cloud storage server connected to the North Korean IP address, and that it contains an Invincible animation sketch. Then they put out the official announcement was, we do not work with North Korean companies or any affiliated entities. and have no knowledge of any North Korean companies working on our animation. Our policies strictly prohibit any subcontracting to any third parties without our express prior written consent, which, in this case, was neither sought nor granted. We are also mandate that all our service providers fully comply with all applicable rules and regulations and prohibit disclosures of materials by our service providers to third parties. Skybound Entertainment takes these allegations seriously and has initiated a thorough internal review to verify and rectify any potential issues. We have also notified the proper authorities and are cooperating with all appropriate business or bodies. Now, basically what this is, if you don't know, there are sanctions placed by the United States on North Korea which prohibit any company from doing business with North Korean companies. So Skybound would be specifically prohibited from using an animation studio based in North Korea or even as a third party. So they're saying they weren't doing it, they're unaware of doing it, that they were never asked permission to do it, and they want to nip this in the bud. Now, is this a big story? Well, right before I came on to record the news, I saw Jake Tapper talking about it on CNN. So there's something there. Now, I don't mean that Skybound did it, but it's big enough that the CNN's picking it up. So, but yeah, I hope this is all true and that they can clear this up quickly. Folks, there's some good folks over at Skybound I like a lot, and I hope, like I said, this isn't true. So, all right, one of my favorite scenes in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and yes, I like the film, was when Hank Pym showed up with his giant ants to save the day. Now, I have been a Hank Pym fan since I was a kid. I was never really happy with some of the things they did with him later on, but I really like what Michael Douglas has been doing as his portrayal of the character. Now, that scene where he shows up with the giant ants, that's Hank's hero moment. And I was all for it. I thought he looked cool. It was great. Well, Douglas has since said that, somebody was asked if he would return as Hank Pym again, and he said he would if he was going to get killed off. It's kind of the Harrison Ford thing, like, I'll come back as Han Solo, but you got to kill me. Well, it turns out Douglas actually wanted that to happen in Quantumania. He was on The View promoting this new series he's got, Franklin, on Apple Plus, and he said, getting killed off actually was my request for the third one. I said I'd like to have a serious death with all these great special effects. There's got to be some fantastic way where I can shrink to the size of an ant and explode. Whatever it is, I want to use all those effects, but that was on the last one. Now I don't think I'm going to show up for a fourth. Now, it's unclear if there's going to be a fourth because, of course, the third movie didn't do that well. Mind you, it didn't do that well to the tune of over $476 million, which is not horrible, but it was a $200 some odd budget. So whether or not it made a profit is still debatable, but I think they may back away from it, but it doesn't mean that he can't show up in any other project because that's the way Marvel works. It's all connected, right? So, okay. While attending the Sands International Film Festival, Spider-Man star Tom Holland spoke to Deadline about whether or not he would return for a fourth Spider-Man movie. And he said, the simple answer is that I'll always want to do Spider-Man films. I owe my life and career to Spider-Man. So the simple answer is yes. I'll always want to do more. Now, the fact that he said that there's a simple answer means that there's also a complex answer. And he went on to explain that it really comes down to the story. He said, we have the best in the business working towards whatever the story might be, but until we've cracked it, we have a legacy to protect. The third movie was so special in so many ways that we need to make sure we do the right thing. This is the first time in the process that I've been part of the creative so early. It's just a process where I'm watching and learning. It's just really fun stage for me. Like I said, everyone wants it to happen, but we want to make sure we're not overdoing the same thing. So if only there was I don't know, 60 years worth of comic books or something out there for them to pull stories from. If only, right? Okay, of course, Marvel has dropped the new trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine, and we see it's more from Logan's point of view of what's happening. I mean, there's a lot of Hugh Jackman in it. There's a lot of F-bombs and a bunch of cameos of former X-Men villains or villains from the previous franchise films. We also get to see Emma Corrin as who we assume is Cassandra Nova, which is a pretty safe bet at this point. And that Cassandra is probably going to be the big bad in the film. All of this trailer was set to Madonna's Like a Prayer, which actually worked really well. I'm not sure how that did, but yeah, it worked really well. I think Like a Prayer because weren't we all pretty certain that Hugh Jackman was not coming back? That he had hung the claws up for the last time? So yeah, Like a Prayer. Now the film will be in theaters July 26th, but there's a lot in that trailer, and I'm going to take the time to break it down in depth and also explain who Cassandra Nova is and what her bizarre connection is to Charles Xavier, if you don't know what that is. I'm going to do all that on this Thursday show, so tune in for that. That'll be at Thursday, 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific here on The Experience. And remember to stick around for the rest of the day, because coming up here on The Experience, we have Minute to Skim It, Mint Hunter, and Kicking It with Henri. You know, he's been kicking that for a very long time now. Maybe we should try a different approach. Maybe a baseball bat. Anyway, that's it for the day. Have a good one. Take care.